Hey everybody, this episode of the R&R Show is brought to you by Foros.
Folks, this is the R&R Show. My name is Ruel Gaviola, and I've got a bevy of co-hosts. Is that a word, bevy? Did I just make that up?
Yes,
it is a word, right? Thank you.
Nailed it.
You nailed it, buddy. You nailed it.
Thank you. It's been a while since we've streamed together, so I'm still getting my vocabulary all set here. And friends, we're joined by a very special guest. But first, let me introduce my co-hosts, Ray and Chris. As you can see, they are in the middle today, and folks, very special
We're
guest.
in the middle.
Cole Wehrle is in the house, folks. Let's welcome Cole in. Cole, thank you again for joining us today. Much appreciated.
It is my pleasure. I was so delighted to be
Yeah.
asked to come back on.
Yeah, this is exciting. Friends, if you're joining us for the first time, this is the R&R Show where we talk about board games. We're going to rank our top 10 most anticipated for 2025 and get into little shenanigans and good times as always. Chris, Ray, it's been almost 2 months, I think, since we last did the show.
It's been a
Yeah.
minute.
Any,
Happy to be back.
yeah. I hope it's like riding a bicycle where we don't forget how to do it.
We'll find
I
out.
think
Well, I
remember
said this
everything.
off stream. We picked a good one to come back in because I don't plan on saying anything. I'm just going to let Cole talk for all the time until he's got to go to get his flight. And I'm going to have just a great time.
Yes.
Just
We'll be very active
even,
listeners.
you know what? Even for my picks, I know we're doing the top 10 anticipated games of 2025 right now. But surprise, it's going to be all 10 of Cole's because I'm just going to give him my two. You can talk about mine, even if you don't know him. You can change them. You can do whatever you like. Free reign as the special guest here on the R&R Show.
I love it. I love it.
Well, be careful. I might take you up on that.
Nice. Friends in chat, and you're watching this live, thank you for joining us. Let us know if you've got any audio issues or video issues. Everything on my end looks good, but you know how the internet works. And for those of you who join us on YouTube, we do the show live. You can click on the links below to find out when and where to find us. I mean, you found us here on Rahdo Runs Through.
You found us.
Found
Oh
us.
my God, they found us.
They found us. Ray, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while as well.
I'm good. I don't know. I'm good. I've tried to enjoy the couple months of hibernation before show season
Yeah.
kicks off and doesn't stop. We have a crazy lineup at the op this year, so we are getting prepared for that. But I've been good. No, this year's going to be a wild one for me.
Are there any
I'm glad to be back.
are there any plans to expand the ops convention presence by going 3 stories instead of 2 this year?
I don't think that's legal. But we are going to have I'm very, very excited for our booth at Gen Con this year. We are already like knee deep in planning it. We have a whole theme. If you've heard of Tea Witches, which is going to be one of our bigger hobby releases this year, you could imagine what a very big tea witch themed booth might look like. So I am very excited. I'm very into the witchy aesthetic. So
Nice.
It's a fun year for me to be a part of it.
Awesome.
Everyone's going to get little jetpacks that are brooms and can fly around the convention? That's what you're saying?
Oddly enough, that's legal. Unlike the 3-story booth, that is a loophole, actually.
Yeah, you want to get to the 3rd story, you ride on the broom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, I do want to be mindful of our time. Again, Cole has been very gracious by joining us. He does, have a heart out today. So we will do our fun things, but we're going to keep track of time as well. So once again, Cole, we will manage to get you out of here on time and onto where you need to go. Cole, before we get going, are any updates on your end that you'd like to share? Any exclusives you want to share with the audience?
No,
Tell
I
us
won't
the
drop anything
secret.
too big. I will say that Molly House is en route, and I think Australia might start fulfilling like within the week. We have it's always funny when you put a game on a boat, as many people on this call know, you don't really know when it's going to get there. And so some people will accuse me of being like, oh, you're a Europe first company or you're a US first. I'm like, well, I don't know. I kind of put all my marbles in the tumbler, and this time Canada won. So I think Canada is going to be fulfilling
You know what?
before.
You know what? They
Chris.
deserve that.
Yeah, you know what? I think
for
good.
Canada.
I think
It's
I feel
about time.
it's good for Canada. So Australia and Canada
Oh,
will probably be the
yeah.
first people fulfilling. So that's really the only news I have to report.
Nice.
We're
Awesome.
celebrating.
Good. Yeah,
We're
good for Canada.
celebrating
Chris,
They
here.
gotta
yes,
pay those
excited.
shipping fees. They gotta do conversion rates. Look at that.
Oh, we
Nice.
do have to do conversion rates.
Yeah.
Our dollar is horrid right now, so that's great.
All right. Well, folks, we're all caught up. I'm doing all right as well, and we're going to get to the show. Today's show, friends, is sponsored by Foros. This is a new game that is out, and as you see, these are nice, chunky bits. Like, honestly, some of the chunkiest wooden bits I've seen in a while. These, honestly, I mean, if you did not play the game
Those
the
are
right way...
chunky.
Yeah, if you were throwing these at people, you would cause major damage. Do not throw it, folks.
I like that's your go-to.
Yeah.
If you get Foros, if you need to have a fun game, or hurl bits at each other.
Do not do that, folks. Let's take a quick look at Foros. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. Now, you'll notice you have the round piece and the square piece. The standard game is this row right here. It's just a straight line. You're just trying to get 4 in a row. So you and your partner or your opponent are just placing pieces here, trying to get 4 in a row. But here's the thing. You can build up as well. So I could do like this. My opponent can go there and until you line up 4 in a row. Okay? So that is called the wall. And as you build the wall, or, if it falls down, you lost. So it's got a little bit of dexterity element to it. Now, that's one of many ways.
So chunky.
It is chunky. It is like really chunky. Now you also have
expecting the dexterity element of
yeah.
it. But I love that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I figured.
That puts it into Ray territory.
I was going to say that puts it into my wheelhouse.
Ray's purchasing one right now.
Oh yeah, it is on Amazon, folks. You can find it there. So now the second way to play it is Stonehenge. So this is inspired by Stonehenge, of course. So it's a circle. And the same thing, you're trying to get 4 in a row, and you can build on top of the other pieces, and until there's 4, that player wins. And then the grid. What is the grid? I'm glad you asked, Ruel. The grid is when you flip it over here and go to a standard 4x4 grid. And once again, you're taking turns trying to get 4 in a row, building on top, and so forth. And you can build on top of your own pieces as well, which is really cool. So it's one of those games. It's a game that has a lot of classic elements to it, abstract-wise, right? You got a set of pieces, 2 sets of pieces, and you're just taking turns back and forth. So those are the 3 ways to play Foros. But here's a great thing: the guidebook gives you the 3 ways to play, and then it's got this little art section. You can make little art. Isn't this cute? So
100%.
Yeah.
I love acknowledging those of us who like to fidget with our pieces, like in between turns, to like make a little art, right? That feels like kind of a shout out to us.
Oh, totally.
Right. Ray is feeling more and more seen as this goes on.
Yes. And then on top of that, after the artwork, they have puzzles set up. So they have the different challenges, and you can find a bunch online as well. They give you the first 3 here. So you're trying to match these, and you're going to figure out, you're hoping to figure out what they're trying to make. And I don't know. Yeah, I should spoil one of the answers. One of them, I'll just let you know, one of them's a train, which is really cool, a train engine. Nice. And then they have tower puzzles. This is sort of like Sudoku, where you're trying to get things lined up perfectly. Like they actually have the numbered on the grid and stuff. So plenty of different ways. And then here's the games and activities for kids, right? So this is the type of thing where you can build a structure and then have the ask the kid, hey, can you recreate this? By when I take off the pieces, can you do it like I did? So, friends, Foros now available. It's 3D 4 in a row, and it's got, like I said, the chunkiest bits ever. So want to thank them for sponsoring today's episode. And
it's fitting that they're a sponsor for today's episode because there are 4 of us.
Friends, it doesn't get much better than that. Welcome to the R&R show.
For that.
Yeah. Welcome to the R&R show, friends. This is the top 10 most anticipated games of 2025. Once again, I'm Ruel, joined by Chris and Ray, and also Rahdo via the magic of video, and our very special guest, Cole Wehrle. Friends, we're going to jump right into it. We're not going to waste any time messing around, and we've got 10 great games to talk about, and I believe, Chris, you're going to lead things off today.
I believe I am going to lead us off, unless Cole wants a 4th or a 3rd option.
Leave this man alone. Leave this man alone, Chris.
Dangerous. So dangerous. I will hold my tongue.
All right, I'm stoked about this game coming out. This is a fun list for me just in general because as I was scrolling through everything, I feel like I spent a lot of time in the Kickstarter in the crowdfunding sphere, right? That GameFound Kickstarter era, and And so I get to see all the games that are delivering now that I've like
Mm.
gotten to look at 2-3 years ago, and remembering about that. And
Oh, I think we
Uh-oh.
lost Chris.
I think we just
I am
lost Chris.
On tenterhooks.
Oh, there he is.
goes.
Okay.
oh, did I freeze? I felt
Yes.
like I
You're good.
froze.
Yeah.
You did.
I feel like I
did.
froze.
The joys of live streaming,
and then
folks.
now I'm back.
Yeah,
What
you're
does it
back,
feel
Chris.
Now
like to
you're good.
freeze?
Thank you.
I'm back. What does it feel to freeze? It feels like I should have given Cole my picks. Is what it feels like. It feels like that was the sign. Okay, I'll say what I was saying again because I don't know what I got cut off. But it's just nice spending so much time in the crowdfunding sphere, and that now seeing the games that deliver and me remembering, okay, yeah, I was really excited about this, really excited about this, really excited about this. And so our number 10, our collective number 10, is the second game from this publishing team, and this is Luthier. They did Distilled. This is what I thought was Paverson Games, but in one of their videos they were referred to as Paverson Games, and I don't know if that was just the person doing the audio or if that's how it's called. So I'm going to say Paverson Games and assume that that's how they want to be called.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's Luthier or Luthier if you're nasty. And you can this is from the team that brought you Distilled. Distilled has sort of been making the rounds as people have been really enjoying this game, and in this one you're creating instruments. You are a luthier who's creating instruments for people to play beautiful concertos. You also have different composers that you can use to inspire different works of art. It's all and music. It's all about creating that idea of like music and instruments. The core mechanism in this game is that you have 5 different workers of different value, like 5 to 1 essentially, and you're going to choose where to put them face down, and everybody can put their workers kind of on one space, so it's more maybe action selection if you want to think about it that way. But then once everybody's placed, then you reveal the stacks, and whoever has put their highest worker, it's blind bidding, gets to take the better version of that action, or gets first dibs at the selection. And so I really like that as a concept of sussing out your opponents, seeing what do you want. What am I going to place where? If there's a tie, I think it's whoever's placed there first, so whoever's on the bottom of the stack. And so I really like that aspect of blind bidding. Plus, I know the production quality is going to be phenomenal. Distilled was great production quality. I was really impressed with that production and that design, and just the flow of the game seems really, really nice as well. I have a few people who have played it in my Discord and have talked about it very highly and are big fans as well. So this one just feels like really, really great. Yeah, Sean in the comments saying, Luthier got a game on TTS and it's amazing. Step up from Distilled, great round bidding. And yeah, that Oregon dice tower, unnecessary but so unique, I had to buy it. Right? We just want fun, cool stuff on our table. And I think the production quality here, plus the game, are going to be a really nice meld. And so that's what I kind of look out for games. So that's why I wanted to put this one on this list.
Yeah, this looks fantastic, Chris. And I've not played Distilled or Luthier, but I've seen them on tables at different conventions, and everyone's raving about both of them. Yeah, I would love to check this one out. Is it just me? So was there another game? What was it? Lacrimosa that came out a year or two ago? Another?
Yeah, Lacrimosa was DeVere.
DeVere. Okay, yeah. So I like that more. I mean, I hope it's a trend where we're going into old school music theme. I guess is the best way I can describe it. Classical music. I love the theme. And yeah, this looks terrific. It's it just missed my list because I totally forgot about it. But hey, it looks great.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I'm a big classical music person. I don't know if I've talked about it on stream at all, but I was gonna do music performance before I kind of switch paths.
Wait,
so
what?
it's always
I don't think we ever talked about that.
No, yeah.
I play the bassoon. I was gonna do bassoon performance.
Nice.
And then long backstory, didn't end up doing that, but I still have a deep love for classical music, and it's odd that it's a theme that kind of has never really been done that much in board games. So I'm excited for it, and I've played Distilled twice and quite enjoyed it both times. So I'm with you on this one, Chris. Looks good.
So Ray's number 10 pick, Luthier. On to my number 9.
Ray, do you still practice the bassoon? Is that something
I
you
do.
No?
I do, very not intermittently now, just for fun.
Yeah.
But
You-
yes, yeah.
You know that the opening to the next R&R show is going to be
I can
you
bring-
playing
I
the
have
bassoon
it.
now, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Like,
Yeah, no, I've played it
100%.
for like 15 years. I've played the bassoon for a long time.
Yeah, we want a bassoon solo every R&R show.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to figure out the microphone situation because I assume it's slightly louder than your voice.
Yeah,
Just,
slightly.
just by a hair.
Oh, that's so funny. I didn't know I hadn't mentioned that
Let-
yet. But yeah,
let's-
no, this theme is exciting for me.
I feel like Ray should come up with an R&R theme song and play it on the
Oh
bassoon.
God. Oh no.
Yeah? What have you done? What have you
Never
walked
hear
into?
from me.
Yeah.
Bloody,
Okay.
Bloody Lion also says Ray plays the bagless bagpipes.
That's a long story that we don't have time for. Cole's got a plane to catch.
That's
I'll tell
true.
the bagless bagpipe story next stream.
Save it for the outro.
That is
Save it
true.
for the outro.
But
Nice.
story for another time.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts on Luthier? Anyone? I'll leave it to the floor. And if not, we can move on. Yeah. All right. We're going to move on to our collective number 9. This was my choice. And the company that we're going to talk about, I really love. And I think, Ray, we've talked about this company before. It's IV Studio, aka
Yeah.
IV Games. I really love, the components of their games are just really beautiful on the table, and also the player interaction in their games I find to be just outstanding. And our number 9 is Brink. This is a game set in the Moonrakers world. I loved Moonrakers. It's a sci-fi game. Moonrakers had deck building and actually negotiation in it as well, which I didn't expect. And Brink is the new game that's coming out, and as you can see here, Richard playing it along with Alex. This was where Alex taught Richard the game on the channel. And what's really neat, it was described to me as a taking Moonrakers and Fractured Sky and sort of melding both of those and including some new elements as well. So you have not deck building, but you have area control, bidding, and you're trying to get the most points by uncovering all the different hexes, right? Doing a little like 4X style exploring, I guess. And I love that it's a worker placement game. That's my favorite genre. So to see the IV team get together and work on a worker placement game, of course, got me really excited. Knowing as well that you've got some negotiation in here as well. It's really interesting. So your workers have different powers, and they can trigger in different ways depending on who has the most control at each turn in a given sector, right? And so whoever wins is going to be able to get their workers and do more things. But people who lose, they don't actually lose like what they bid, so they'll get those back, and they can use that later. I think it's a really interesting combination of things. And once again, it's an IV Studio or IV Games title that's really going to, they call it like above the table interaction, right? So a lot of negotiation. I find that true in Moonrakers and also in Fractured Sky, right? Lots of ways to, talk and, try to, I guess, get the best of your opponents, but, try to get deals out there. Like, let's negotiate. This is good for me. This is good for you. And, hopefully we both are happy after the negotiation, but in the end, I want to win, right? So I want to get the best of all the deals. But that's why I'm really excited about Brink, and that's why it's our collective number 9 today on the most anticipated games of 2025.
I'll say all of their studios games, they're all beautiful, but they've always been like sort of near misses for me. But I think I'm most interested in Brink, and it may just be because there are hexes on that board,
Yes.
and it's animating something very primeval.
Yeah.
But I do think that like I always want to just fall head over heels for their games because I'm all about that above the board.
Yes, exactly.
They should be my favorite things, and there's always like. I love that they found an audience because they're exactly the sort of game company that I want, like making games and bringing people to that style of games. I think Brink looks really cool. Plus, you get to put little pieces in little ships.
Yeah,
That's good.
Exactly.
Yeesh.
That's good. I mean, put a little piece in a little
That's
ship,
true, that's true,
you got me
isn't it?
sold.
I'm all about it. Yeah. And I know that like
Yeah.
the way you bid, I mean, you have your like player screens or whatever. I just remember the Fractured Sky ones, and maybe Chris, you covered it, like the little magnets or whatever they had in Fractured Sky were really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they had the magnets in this as well, but I think they have like slotted, little slotted spaces on your player board to put the bids or whatever.
I think I like Ivy Studios production is usually completely like blinged out to the nines.
Yeah.
You know, with the Fractured Sky magnetic thing. I
Unnecessary.
I feel like I've one of the only copies of Fractured Sky retail that exists because everybody else went for the magnets, and I was like, "Give me the retail. I'm budget friendly, baby." But I love mostly all of their games have been pretty much hits for me personally, and so Brink was I always rank all the like $1 million campaigns that to my enjoyment. I do like an end of the year list, and Brink was like my number one on that.
Yeah.
Because of how much I enjoy Ivy Studios games, and I really like somebody in the comment, John in the comments. Hey, John, it said that he loves the forced negotiation system of trade it or lose it resources,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that really gets me excited too. I'm like, I know you have those resources out there. I want them, but like, I'll give you one thing for them. You know, I feel like feel like it really you're getting nothing or you're getting this one thing. So you might as well take something. And I like that sort of style of negotiation too, where everybody can walk away unhappy. And so that's what I like.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, Ivy Studios does such a great like. I'm kind of with you, Cole, where some of them have been hits and some of them have been kind of misses for me, but I do love that they very much have that niche of above the table interaction, and it's cool to see them attach that to kind of unconventional other mechanics, like adding in social deduction or above the table talk where it kind of historically doesn't really belong. And again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always a cool thing to see. I'm glad somebody's trying it, somebody's doing it. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
And those big productions, I'm very split on, because like I got the Fantasy Castle of Burgundy on a lark and like it despite myself, and there are other games where I'm like, no, I actually want the smallest box, simplest stripped down production possible, and I'm completely inconsistent on it.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's valid.
Cole, it's funny you bring up Castle of Burgundy, because I was just talking to someone about that. Like, I did the same thing. I bought the Castle of Burgundy, got all the little minis and everything, and I realized after a couple of games I'm not playing with the minis anymore. I'm just using the tiles. So like, they totally got this.
Because they're pointless.
But it is a beautiful production, and Ivy Studios are putting out really great stuff. You know, just one quick thought. Their game Veiled Fate. I am not a social deduction fan, but the way they did social deduction in that game was, I thought, brilliant. And, you know, they added like a strategy board game to social deduction. And I really enjoyed Veiled Fate. So for them to make a game that actually makes me like social deduction, I thought was a pretty big accomplishment for me personally. Okay. Let's move on to our number 8, which is going to go to Ray.
All right. So my number 8 was on my list before I knew that Cole was going to be a guest. I then promptly tried to take it off my list for fear of trying to describe an unreleased game poorly in front of its own designer. I then put it back on my list under the pretense that I will say why I am excited about this, but Cole can jump in and describe the actual game so you don't have to just sit here and listen to me attempt to describe a game I've never played that you are very, very familiar with.
No, let's do that version. Let's do that version.
I agree.
I've never emailed Andrew back so fast in my life. I was like, oh, actually, never mind.
And Cole can heckle you. Cole will heckle you throughout, and we'll go. Sorry, no, it's 2 cards.
No, this is very lucky for me, because as you know, working at the publisher level, learning how to talk about a game you've worked on is hard, and the best way to do it is to watch someone else do it at you.
That's actually
I will take notes.
That's a good point. Well, in case you haven't picked up yet, our number 8 is going to be Molly House by Whirligig Games. Games designed by Joe Kelly and Cole Wehrle. I am excited to see Whirligig Games try their hand at a social history, which I think is going to be a really interesting endeavor for the company. And especially a social history that's very near and dear to my heart, which will be the queer community of 1720s London. As a queer person myself, our history doesn't get taught very much. This is going to be a learning experience for me, and it's one that I'm very, very excited to take part in. And it's also not a history that gets told very much in games almost at all. So I'm also equally excited to see the community reception to this game. I love the concept of this gender-defying revelry and creating joy, and also this idea of sort of social and citizen policing, which I think will be an interesting kind of conflict in the game that will create interesting discussions and conversations. at the table. There's going to be collaborative poker, some hidden roles, some deception, and hopefully some joy and good conversations, and just going to be a really interesting game that I'm excited to see how people react to it. I'm excited to bring it to my table. I'm excited to learn from this game because I know Wehrle Games takes a lot of pride and care with the history that they tell through their games. So
For sure.
this is Molly House, and I'm very, very excited for this one.
I could hardly improve upon that. I think
Nice.
I'll underline things that you said because they excited me, because I think one of the things that is so special about this design, as my friend Dan Bullock put it, is it's the first game I've worked on that doesn't have guns or boats in it.
Yeah.
It's a social history game, and
Yeah.
a lot of the tools that we use in game design are just not really built for social history. Joe and I had this problem when we were trying to figure out how to design a party inside a game.
Mhm.
So not a party game, but a party inside a game. And our first impulse was so wrong. We thought, oh, parties, they're fun. They should be laughing and surprises. And I thought, no, there's this thing that happens when you go to a party where sometimes you go to a party and you have a great time. And other times you enter a party and you realize at that moment that you should not have come to this party at all. And that is actually part of the party experience, the uncertainty
That's right.
of knowing. And so we crafted this like very strange, very collaborative party system. And one of the things I'm so proud of in the design is that many of the game elements draw their inspiration from early and mid 18th century games. So, that we
Cool. I
use
didn't know
this,
that.
the collaborative poker sort of like has these like light references to this old game called Brag. It's a roll and move with a circular board, like a lot of early Victorian and Georgian games.
Yeah.
And so we tried to fold the history at every little place that we could put it. And the other thing I'll mention is it's a fascinating bit of history because, as Ray mentioned, a lot of queer history has been completely abrogated or eradicated. But the period of the Molly houses is somewhat well documented. It's not incredibly well documented. I mean, it happened over 300 years ago, but it's a lot better documented than other eras of queer history. And so, as we were looking through the archive, the fact that there weren't firmly established codes for how to, what you were allowed to share, what you're allowed to talk about, meant that people were maybe a little bit more forthright than they would have been otherwise. And so it was I found it a little bit like stumbling into a high definition photograph in an archive where there's kind of nothing, and then you find, oh, I didn't even know they could take a color photograph at this period. So all of the cards, this is the one thing I wanted to mention, this is the first product where we had to commission art. We used Rachel Ford, a wonderful artist based in the UK, and she did all the engravings. Or no, they aren't engravings, but they're done in that style. But every image in the deck is based on a passage, a fragment from the primary source. So every little word that you read is something that someone said at one moment. And instead of having these big blocks of flavor text, we have these little moments like, two in an arbor, or like these like funny like lines that people would call each other out. And then there's an illustrated scene, and then there's a citation. You can go read it on the official records. And so if you want to learn about the period, it's just a very different way of approaching historical game than I've ever worked on. I was delighted to work on it with Joe. It's their first design, and it's stunning.
Wow.
Oh, I again, it's that care taken to the subject matter, right?
Yeah.
Like, of all the companies to approach this, I'm very, very excited that you all are taking it on, because it's going to be done to a level of quality and detail that doesn't happen very often. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, I think in terms of, at least from my perspective, in terms of like historical games and like accuracy and like care with potentially tricky subject matter, I think like Wehrle Games is, but I can't even think of anybody who comes close, really.
Yeah.
My fear with Molly House is that I like being conniving in games. I like being betraying people in games, and because of the theme, I don't think I could do it. I just I really don't think I could do it. I remember reading through the thing, and I was like, I know how much like struggle it happens, and I know how much harm happened, and I was like, I can't do it. Like I can't betray people in this game. So if I ever play this game, I'm like, I won't be able to.
So I'll say a couple things about it. So someone in the chat asked about the player count. It plays 1 to 5. We spend a lot of time on player scaling. What I always tell people is I don't believe in making every play count play the same. but I do believe that every play count listed should be interesting. It includes a really robust solo mode designed by Richard Wilkins, who's done solo modes for many of my games. A brilliant designer. And we had a few sort of like important rules when we were designing the game. And Joe was very good about making sure that we kind of kept to vision. And one of them is you're never forced to be a traitor.
Right.
Okay.
No one entered this world and got dealt a werewolf card. Instead, there are going to be moments where you're going to feel the pressure of betrayal.
Right.
And you can respond to that pressure. You know, you might be under indictment, and it might literally mean that there's a 50-50 chance that you'll be hung. And you can decide, do you want to chance it, or do you want to stay loyal? And that is a decision you make, and then other players can kind of suss out what that means. But the other thing I'll say is that you know, I tend to be like a pretty, so some people will play the game really almost like a full co-op, and the game does function that way, sort of. I mean, it's not exactly a full co-op, but they can be played very collaboratively. And other groups will play this almost like a tournament game. And the thing that I think is really important to remember when we play these historical games is that there are people who do villainous actions. In fact, like it's a really important engine in both our understanding of history and also just how stories work. I mean, imagine going to see Othello and the person playing Iago says, you know, I just can't do it tonight. It's like, tonight I can't be Iago. Now, we all can't be Iago. That there is this kind of psychic damage that goes with playing that kind of villainy. But it's important to recognize that like that pressure is like the great mainspring of all of our stories. And so I usually tell people, like, when you sit down to play a game, we're going to be taking on these different roles. They're not ourselves, but of course they're going to allow us to reflect on aspects of ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
I think
that's a great way of framing it, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, you're not yourself. You're playing something.
Well, one of the reasons why I'm excited that Whirligig in particular is taking the subject matter on is I feel like they're always very respectful about the like consenting to have this experience with people at the table. Whereas like a lot of times we get sort of jump scared as players with like subject matter or being put in positions that are uncomfortable. And this game will probably be too uncomfortable for a lot of people to play, right? The subject matter might make people uncomfortable. But I like the idea that it is being done in a way where you are kind of consenting and understanding that this is a game that you are participating. It's kind of like almost performance art in a way, like you are experiencing this thing together. I think that that's something that Whirligig does very well, which is again why I'm excited that it's coming from y'all.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed.
Well, thank you very much. I am also excited for people to play it because I've been playing it for 3 years now. And I want someone else to talk to about it.
Yeah. God, that must be maddening. That's gotta like, oh my God, I'd go insane.
So our Canadian friends will get it first, and then we'll the rest of us will get around to it.
Yeah, it'll kind of be like.
Look at that torturous decision first.
This also made my list. So, of course, I knew we were going to talk about it today. I mean, great pick, Ray. And I'm just waiting for my buddy Daryl to get his copy so we can start playing it. So, Daryl, unfortunately, he lives in the U.S., so we'll have to wait. But it's all good. Super excited about that. Thank you for that, Ray. Let's move on to number 7. And our number 7 today is going to be from Cole.
Yes, this is a game I've been looking forward to for so long, and it's finally almost ready. And this is Bronx Expressway by Non-Breaking Space. So Bronx Expressway is being published by GMT as part of their Irregular Conflict series, which is the most GMT named series ever. But so I'm not going to worry too much about defining why it is in that series and what the different series are, but I just want to talk to you about the game. So I love the idea of a city builder, but I think nobody knows how to make one. And it's because SimCity kind of broke all of our brains. But SimCity is a weird game that doesn't make any sense. There's no, like, imagine no city has ever grown, except maybe Milton Keynes, if you live in the UK. No city has ever grown like a planned community the way the cities in SimCity work. Cities have history, and that history determines how they grow, and there's lots of all these countervailing forces, and whenever you see a city builder try to grapple with this, and I think about Chad Jensen's game Urban Sprawl, people always get sort of upset about it because like, oh, it seems chaotic, I don't have full control. And I'm like, I know, it's a city builder, you don't have full control. What I love about Bronx Expressway is how narrow it is. So it is about basically the development and the redevelopment of the South Bronx mostly, and the construction of the Cross Bronx Expressway, which is a pivotal for any urban planning nerd. This is a pivotal moment in how cities thought about the usage of highways and of land and of who had the ability to determine how a city would grow and change. And if you really want to get into this, I recommend reading, of course, Robert Caro's amazing The Power Broker, or learning about it, about Robert Moses. Basically, you had New York rework itself to favor people who wanted to go out to Long Island on the weekends. And what did that mean for the communities living in those places? So in this game, it's about the construction of the highway, it's about the displacement of populations, and it is also just a nitty-gritty game about city politics. It has great scope, and the designer has been engaged with this subject for, I mean, decades, and it's finally about to happen. GMT, I will say, is one of those publishers who, in recent years especially, has gotten so good at providing supplementary documentation in their games too. So if you're listening to me talk about this, and you're like, "What is the Cross Bronx Express? I've never even heard of this thing." There's probably going to be like a 200 pages of supplementary materials in this box.
Wow.
They're going to talk all about how the game works and how it is folding in the history. So, along the lines of games about social history, this is a place where I think that not weirdly, a lot of Euros are ahead of the historical games. Historical games tend to be stuck in hot conflicts. And I really love seeing some of the desire, the ethos, the just strategy of how you tackle a historical game being applied to subjects that don't typically get games. And the Cross Bronx is certainly one of those.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this game, Cole. And then I saw the list, I looked at it like, this looks so fascinating to me. And as you talked about, it's about the conflicts of the politics, right? Of building this, doing a city builder, and I find that fascinating. I've only played a few GMT games, and I've got a couple on my shelf, and I feel like this one would be my jam. I definitely want to check this one out.
Yeah.
I will mention one thing about the series that it's in. So if you know Fred Serval's recent The Jest of Robin Hood, that is also in the same series. And these are games that tend to be like a little bit more user-friendly. They're a little bit more for people just getting into historical games. And they have themes that are just like a bit off the beaten path. So I'm excited that the series is building out in this way.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm going to be thinking about what you said for a long time, that nobody knows how to make a city builder board game. I think that's kind of true. I mean, as a big like Civ, SimCity fan, I love that genre. I think that's kind of a good point when you think about it. So I'm excited to see this being done in a maybe more authentic way.
Yeah. I got nothing. I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about a lot of things.
With you just saying "cool," I
Cool.
know.
I was like, I thought that would be the funniust thing after just like so much eloquence and being like, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Same.
I thought that would be a good bit.
Yeah.
City building's tough. I know my neighbor and not friend Yuval is working on a city building game that I quite enjoy. So that's where like my mind goes to, but I have no specifics to talk about that. And I like suburbia as like an economic population sort of thing, but the city building in that is like it's mid at best.
I mean, I think the reason why I always have trouble with them is that there's no friction, right? Like suburbia is a great example where it's just like, just go. There is no.
You just build.
There is. You just build. And something I like about Hamlet, if you've played Hamlet,
yes,
like Hamlet.
you really feel the
like
weirdness of like your previous decisions and of the map, and you get all twisted and strange. I'm like, this feels a lot more organic.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And of course you need like some combination, but I've been trying to think about a way of doing a game about municipal politics for a long time, and there's this really fundamental problem, which is you can't like make victory conditions work, because let's say you're trying to build a road that you think is important, or like a bike lane. Your policy going in and you building that bike lane might take a generation to really pay off, but like the out of party power, or the out of power party just wants to see you not get elected again, and so their victory condition is happening on a term of like 3 years, and your victory condition is having on a term of like 80 years or 50. And so because of these weird temporalities, you just can't like make a game about city politics that actually feels like the way city politics feels. So it's something I'm really interested in. And I have read a lot about the game. I've watched some demos. I don't even really know how it's played, but I am so impressed with the thought and care that's going into the game that it is going to be worth your time to just like look at.
Yeah,
definitely.
I got one word for you. Sounds cool.
Sounds cool. I'll take it. I'll tell MD.
You'd mentioned Hamlet, and I hadn't played it in about a year, but I do remember those funky tiles. Weren't they like really weird, like land tiles? Or like I think polyominoes. These were not polyominoes. They were just like
no, they're just it's kind of just
triangles.
random shapes.
Yeah,
honestly.
random.
Like,
right? Oh
just
my gosh.
jagged pieces that you're trying to shove together.
Okay. In the words of Chris, cool. Let's move on to our number 6. We're going to have Richard come on in. And Richard, take it away with our number 6.
Hey gang, hey Cole, it is so good to have you back. Last year when you appeared for the anticipated list, I think you blew all of us away with some of your choices, and I'm sure you're going to do it again. In fact, heck, looking at what you've already talked about in this very episode. Well, first of all, Chris, let me tell you right now, you're right to put Luthier on the list because I already got a chance to play it in prototype form, and it is as good a design as it is pretty. So much fun, this worker placement game where we're not necessarily the musicians, but we're the creators of the instruments that they use. Oh, man. Folks, if you haven't already seen it, you can go check out my run-through. There's a link for it down in the show notes. There's links for videos for all the games we're talking about today, and Luthier is an excellent choice at number 10. And Ruel, number 9, putting Brink on the list is another excellent choice, another really phenomenal worker placement game, and featuring the, as always, stellar, over-the-top, amazing production we've come to expect from, IV Games. Again, you can check out my run-through down in the links below if you want to see it in action, folks. I think it's going to be very popular. And it was, for me, something very unique. Most of the time, I always respect IV Games' titles, but they're never really for me and Jen. This is one that both Jen and I enjoyed a lot. Then, Ray, Molly House. Oh man, I am certain you did not put this on the list just because Cole is here, and hopefully Cole wasn't too embarrassed to be called out favorably for putting this game in the spotlight and elevating it. I am so happy about that because honestly, it feels like these days more than ever, we need to be telling these kinds of stories and using games to, give voice to the marginalized and tell stories that we don't hear anywhere else in pop culture, or modern society. I am so excited and so proud of the industry that something like Molly House can be showing us, a better way. And Cole, you have my infinite respect for being able to bring this to us, working with others, and I'm very excited to check it out myself. And then finally, Cole, you have not disappointed me. What is number 7? Cross Bronx Expressway. I kind of tend to think of myself as actually having my finger on the pulse. I've never heard of this. I literally don't know what it is, so I can't wait to watch this episode because, of course, I'm recording this the night before, so you can watch me pre-taped and all of that. And I am sure, like last year, you are very much going to, come up with something that really opens my eyes and gets me excited about something that somehow I had totally missed. But anyway, so that was number 10 through 7. Number 6 on the list is my choice. And first of all, folks, you may already know I have done a top 25 most anticipated games for 2025, and I'm talking about games today on this list that I did not talk about on that list, and that I really didn't talk about in my extra ramble that I did in the month of January, where I talked about over 100 games for 2025 that I'm excited for, including Luthier and Brink and Molly House, although I don't know about this Bronx game. Maybe I'm embarrassed I missed that. And I'm also embarrassed that when I did these earlier lists, I missed number 6 on our combined list. It is Regicide Legacy. And I am so stoked for this, folks. If you haven't heard about Regicide, it's had a very interesting story of its development. It started out as kind of a design experiment to see if you could come up with a really great cooperative game with just a deck of 52 poker cards. And the developers of it did it. They cracked the code and really just turned everybody's head. Everybody was so blown away by how deep and rich the gameplay, the cooperative gameplay here is with just a deck of standard 52 cards. Of course, if you pick up Regicide, you actually get a whole bunch of really beautiful bespoke art because it is a cooperative game where we're trying to beat a boss. We have a handful of cards, and the cards we play, the number on them tells how much damage we do, but each card type has its own special power as well, as do the bosses, which are the jacks, queens, and kings of a standard deck. And there was kind of a sad story here because they ended up getting into a publishing partnership with some folks who turned out to be really not the best of what the industry is all about. And it was really kind of a shame. And I'm so happy that the original developers of Regicide got the rights for their game back. And now they are publishing it themselves. But they're not resting on their laurels. They are producing now a legacy version of the game where you can just play it just like the original Regicide, but it comes with a 12-chapter campaign you can play through. And while the original game was just 52 cards, now there are going to be hundreds of cards in the box with all kinds of new concepts like artifacts and allies you can recruit and hundreds of different enemies you could fight. And of course, all the really fun legacy stuff that I love, putting stickers and making permanent changes. And don't worry, for folks who are bothered by such things, you can either get reset packs so you can start the campaign over, but you don't need to because the game has an eternal mode. Once you finish the game, you've got your own personal custom version of the game that you can keep playing forever. So it sounds like it ticks all the boxes of a really great legacy game. And I've never gotten a chance to play it, even though I could have at any time because I have a deck of 52 poker cards, but I've always wanted to get my hands on something that reflects, the artistry and the love and the craftsmanship and the passion and the brilliance of the design that was always that everybody has shouted from the rooftops for Regicide, but now we get it with an epic experience with Regicide Legacy. I am embarrassed. I completely, somehow this, slipped under my radar, but I found out about it, and it is number 6 on our most anticipated Regicide Legacy. Okay, back to y'all.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Great choice. I played the original Regicide. I always thought it was called Regicide, to be honest with you. But Regicide was terrific.
We'll just let it. We'll let him have it.
Thank
We'll
you.
let him have
We'll
it.
let
It's
him
his
have it,
first one back in 2025. It's all right, Richard. Can't get them all.
Chris. As Richard was mentioning, it really is a great design. I mean, it was a standard deck of cards, and I did the original print and play back in the day before it went through its really tumultuous history with bad publisher, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm excited too that it's been redone and we got this legacy edition, and I can't wait for more folks to check this out. I don't know if we talked about it on this show. It might have been on somewhere else, but there was a recent game called 52 Realms that was published, and that also took the concept of, hey, here's a standard deck of cards. We're going to give you a couple of sheets of paper, and it was a dungeon crawler with a deck of cards. It was really impressive. You basically used your cards to determine what character you had, what final boss there was, what monsters, what loot. It was a really incredible design, and that was from, I totally forgot the name of the company, but it's the one that publishes print and play games. I know we've covered them here as well. Matthew Dunstan is one of the people behind that, but it'll come to me in a second. But anyways, anyone else have thoughts on Regicide or Regicide Legacy?
I haven't played Regicide, but I know it's also on BGA, and it's just like solo, but you can actually play it on BGA, because I was talking to somebody, and they were like, yeah, I've played 50 games, I've won one of them. I was like, all right, good. I guess it's a tricky one.
Nice.
I have never played it, and I love hard co-ops, and so it's a big blank spot, but maybe this will be the year.
Yeah. And a friend in chat, Bing413, Postmark Games. That's who I was thinking about. Yeah, Postmark Games. They release print and play only games. They've done stuff from Matthew Dunstan. Also, I think they've done one from Phil Walker Harding, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, great one, Richard. Let's move on with the list as we go on. That was Richard's number 6, Regicide Legacy. We're going back to Chris for number 5.
All right, my number 5 is one of the most funded board games of all time, and that's Nemesis Retaliation. Nemesis Retaliation, which I love Nemesis. I really do. I've played this game a lot with my buddy Zach. He was the first person who introduced me to Awakened Realms games. He bought it on a whim, and I said, "Wow, this is amazing! I have to get everything they ever do ever from here on out." And I went down a very impulsive road, all because of Nemesis, because of how much I enjoyed the game. I was like, Etherfield's campaign, backing it. I don't do all-in pledges, but I was like, there's a group buy for an all-in pledge. I save on shipping. Yes, give me everything. And then during that campaign, I was like, yes, what Tainted Grail late pledge? Give me that too. All because of how much I enjoyed playing Nemesis. Really was the culprit. And so when the 3rd edition of Nemesis came out, I knew I was already going to back it. I didn't purchase this for myself. I purchased it for my friend Zach, so I could justify getting everything because it's a gift. And it's going to live at his house and not take up room on my shelves, and I get to play it whenever I want. It's really the perfect hack if you're running out of room on your own shelves. Just give games to friends. But I'm really excited about this iteration of Nemesis for a couple reasons. One, because it is more of a deviation from their standard theme. Like Nemesis and Nemesis Lockdown are essentially the same game. I think Nemesis Lockdown is a little bit better because they have a couple tweaks of like lighting systems and how the secret information works. But like mechanically, it's pretty similar. This one feels more closer to a zombicide. You are going to retaliate against the aliens. You know that there are aliens. You know that there are a lot of them. And now you're coming in with your cool guns and your blasting powers, and you're going to try to take them out. And so I think there are so many that you could get the standees, and that the minis are also smaller because of the scale of how many that you're going to be dealing with. And that sort of speaks to what mechanically you will be experiencing, more waves of enemies. I also really like how they're doing a modular board in this. In Nemesis, both in Nemesis, there is a sort of a set map and you modulate the rooms. But in this one, you can see on the screen that you'll be exploring outwards, and there'll be tiers. There'll be kind of columns of level 0, 1, 2, 3, and all of that has to deal with, like, the further you go in, the more resources you need, I think, for life support, if I'm remembering correctly. But the exploration aspect and the discovering about new villains that are going to attack you, I also think feels interesting, new, and different from their original first 2 Nemesis as well. So I'm excited to see a game flavor that I really like, a game brand that I really like, and also see the change.
Played the game like myself. You had mentioned Zombicide. Is it that similar to Zombicide as far as, you have your characters, you're leveling up, trying to complete missions on the board, like dungeon crawling?
This one will be this one will be the closest. The other 2, not like Zombicide at all.
Okay, cool.
The other ones are like stealth. When an alien comes up, you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot deal with this alien. Let's try to kill it. I'm out of bullets. Let's run away. Let's punch it with our hands and hope that it's a weak little alien. But we don't know if I'm punching its heart or I'm punching its mouth. And I hope I'm punching its heart, and I hope I can run away. There's a lot of fear in that. I think in this, you're retaliating, and so I think it's going to be more closer to Zombicide because the aliens are going to be easier to defeat, and you're going to be dealing with more numbers en masse.
Cool.
Essentially, is the difference that I am anticipating.
And what I mean, I know you haven't played it yet, but what would as far as someone that's never played, which one would you tend to, or which one would you recommend?
Oh, I'd still recommend Nemesis Lockdown. I think I like Lockdown. It depends. If you really want Alien the board game, and you want to be on the Nostromo
Yeah.
or whatever the ship's called, I think that's it. You should pick the OG Nemesis. Like it's more creepy, it's more crawly. I think I like the way Lockdown deals with hidden information a little bit more, in terms of figuring out goals, like end game goals of who all is going to die at the end. And so that's a more exciting revelation there. But they're both good. Lockdown is my preferred, but I'd play either. And
So-
I can't recommend this one yet because it is a deviation from the thing that I like, and I am anticipating that I will really like it. But for me, it's third because I already know. I'll go with the known factor over the unknown.
So Nemesis, the original, like the original Alien. Would you say this one, Retaliation, more like Aliens? The second one?
Yeah.
Okay. If
you got guns and aliens,
Yeah, right?
and you can fight back.
All right, great. That gives me a chance to say game over, man. Okay, that's I'll leave it there.
Game over, man.
Game over, man. Any other thoughts on Nemesis Retaliation before we continue on?
That's a good pick.
Get him out quick before the stream crashes.
I seriously. We'll just say cool. All right.
Cool.
Cool.
I should have. Oh man,
that would have been good. Yeah,
Right?
you really missed that on that, right?
Dang
Well,
it.
let's move on to our number 4, and this is going to go back to me. Now, hopefully the stream doesn't crash on us during this, because I want to talk about Unstoppable. This is the latest, and I don't know if it's the greatest, but one of the funner games from John D. Clare, one of my favorite designers. This one takes card crafting and brings it into the world of a roguelike game, where you are, it's a sci-fi game. You're on a planet where some baddies have showed up. The big baddie is the one you're going to fight at the end. But through the game, you're going to cycle through your cards and fight all the monsters and bad people and other things, collecting resources and buying cards. Now, you're going to upgrade your deck through card crafting. So it's similar to deck building, but you're actually sleeving in the upgrades into your cards. And what I thought was interesting, now you can see my playthrough here. This is a prototype. It's a close production finish, but there's some things that were a little off when I played. But anyways, you're sleeving the upgrades into your cards. But what's interesting is you're sleeving them into threats. So when you flip over the card, which you're going to have to do at the end of the round, it turns into a baddie that you have to take care of later. So as you cycle the cards, yes, your cards are getting stronger, but you're also adding more threats. It was really interesting when I did the playthrough. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I love the card crafting system, and I've enjoyed Mystic Veil. I enjoyed Dead Reckoning, which was, I think, a bigger scope game. I think this one sits in the middle ground of between. It's heavier than Mystic Veil, but not quite as heavy as like Dead Reckoning or like Edge of Darkness, right? So this is a solo game as well. So this is in the Renegade Game Studios Solo Hero series. So it's specifically designed for that. It does have like a narrative that you can go through, and I really enjoyed this one. I'm a big fan of Slay the Spire. I am terrible at that game, but I do like that type of system, and I feel like in Unstoppable we have something similar to that, where you can play through and level up your character through the cool upgrades and the cool use of card crafting. So I'm looking forward to it because I want to get a final production copy. I mean, there were some issues with the rulebook that I had, so I know that they ironed those out. And yeah, the gameplay is a lot of fun, and can't wait to get this one back to the table.
Cool.
I have nothing but a well of respect for people who can work on games with transparent overlays, because we have tried to do it a couple times, and it's just hard. It's hard to prototype.
Yeah.
It's hard to do like our style of iterative development. So whenever I see one, it's like a little miracle.
Yeah, I'd imagine that it's, I don't know. Yeah, Cole, I feel like it'd be a nightmare to work on. It just seems really tough to put together prototypes and whatnot, and try to play test it or whatever. Okay, yeah, cool. Let's move on to our number 3. Ray, we're gonna give you number 3, and hopefully the stream does not crash again.
Stream seems to like me so far, so I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Our
The
number.
stream always likes you, Ray. You're the streamer extraordinaire. Let's be real.
Our number 3 is a game called 23 Knives, which I'm very excited about. We've kind of been going on a theme of kind of social deduction, or like social over the table type stuff has been sort of a theme for this stream unexpectedly, which is kind of cool. Hopefully this year will be a good year for social deduction and deception type games. This game, however, is self-described as social manipulation instead of social deduction, which is intriguing to me. Again, love this genre of games. So whenever someone tries to do something different with it, I'll always at least show up and give it a shot. It's interesting that we talked a little bit about Veiled Fate earlier. I think this sort of is reminiscent of that, but I think it's going to do some things that I hope might actually land a little bit better with my gaming group than Veiled Fate. So in this game, you are going to be taking on a role during the time of Caesar. You're either going to be a loyalist who wants to try to save Caesar from being stabbed many, many times. You are a liberator who would like to stab Caesar many, many times, or are you an opportunist who's going to bide their time to the end of the game? And if they are able to sort of change the fate of Caesar at the last minute, they're going to win as a team. One of the things that's interesting to me about this is that you get to choose your roles, and then your roles can change throughout the game. Cole kind of mentioned earlier, oh, in this universe, you draw a werewolf card and you're a werewolf. That is one of the things about the genre that can sometimes be frustrating and I think can be a barrier for a lot of people. I like the idea, and I hope it's executed well, of being able to not only change your own role, but sway the opinions of other people over to your side. That, to my understanding, is one of the mechanics of the game, where people can have a role that they choose at the beginning of the game, but they might actually change their allegiance when it actually comes time to stab Caesar. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. It does feel very reminiscent of Veiled Fate. I think Veiled Fate, for me and my game group, runs a little long and also can be a little bit punishing for people who don't know how to play that above the table game well, because Veiled Fate really doesn't tell you much about how to win Veiled Fate, aside from just like, don't let anyone find out who you are. And I've played that game several times with newer people to the genre, and it can be intimidating. And if you fall really far behind on prestige and everyone knows who you are, it falls flat. So I am excited at the idea of being able to shift your allegiance, have a more dynamic social deduction game. That is intriguing to me. And the theme, I think, is well executed and kind of a fun take on a very obviously well-known historical event. So yeah, this is 23 Knives. I know this is coming from Play to Z, so I don't know if Ruel, you've got more insight into it. If I described anything wrong, please correct me. But yeah, this is our number 3, 23 Knives.
Yeah. No, you were perfect, Ray. Great description. You actually probably know more about this game than I do. Again, full disclosure, folks, I am one of the investors in Play to Z, so just want to put that out there. I'm looking forward to it as well, because it did same thing, Ray. The whole Veiled Fate sort of connection, similarity in some of the aspects is what I'm looking forward to when I actually try to get a play. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I feel like there's like a log jam that's been uncorked with these better social deduction games. Like it's sort of like we're in the post Blood on the Clock Tower era.
Yeah,
people are starting to rethink like what are actually the critical pillars of this genre.
What are we trying to do here? Yeah.
And I will say I'm pretty impressed with the Play to Z Ascending Empires. I've had a lot of fun with it so far, so I'm excited to see this follow up.
Yeah. Again, y'all know my connection to the company. I loved Ascending Empires. It's the fact that you can play a 4X game by flicking, that blew me away. Right, it works too. It's a lot of fun. Okay, cool. Let's move on to our number 2. We're back to Cole for our number 2 today.
I wish I could do another Shakespeare one, and I'm close because my pick is not A Winter's Tale, but Winter Rabbit. Which is it's half there. It's a problem play. This is not a problem game though. So Winter Rabbit is a game from Will Thompson. It is being published by Absurdist Productions, a small game company, which I believe Will is a partner in. And this was a Zenobia finalist, so from the very first Zenobia award, and it got very close to winning. It was in like the kind of final top 3. I think it got whatever the honorable mention category is, or the runner-up. Winter Rabbit is a fascinating game. I think it's probably the first board game that includes both English and Cherokee language components.
Yeah.
And it is speaking about what a game can do in terms of an approach of history and an appropriate topic for a historical game. Winter Rabbit is a game that engages with Cherokee culture on a social and almost mythological register. So you are playing essentially the winter preparations, and you are engaging with this subject not by situating the game in a specific year. Like the game doesn't open up and it says it's 1773 or whatever. Instead, you're kind of doing every winter. And the game then is kind of like taking you on a tour through critical elements of Cherokee culture and also of storytelling. And what is so neat about the design is how it is folding some of these I'll call them just cultural aspects into the actual mechanical design of the game. So it's a worker placement game where you draw the workers from a communal bag, and you're drawing from a bag that includes everyone's workers, and then you are assigning them to the different spots face down. So you know what you've assigned, but no one else does. And there are the kind of trickster rabbit character, who's a key figure in Cherokee mythology, will be present to sort of like upset some of the regions where the workers are getting placed. And you also are all trying to work together to have the village, correctly provisioned. And it just creates these really interesting incentives, this very playful spirit. And the actual just production of the game is glorious. It just is a really amazing testament to the sort of work that can come out when you just sort of widen the aperture about the sorts of things that we can make into games. I mean, in some ways, not so different from the pick of Luthier earlier, because we don't often have games about making instruments. We don't often have games about Cherokee heritage. And I'm just so excited for people to finally get their hands on this game. And then the last thing I'll mention is this game was crowdfunded late last year, and it is ahead of schedule. And this is one of the companies. I think it's their second game, but it has been an absolute model of how to run a tight, well-built Kickstarter with a pretty young team that is not coming from a lot of industry, pros or anything, and certainly worthy of people's attention and support.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember seeing this on Kickstarter as well, fairly recently, and I thought it looked cool. I really like. I love that concept. The small game Masks does this as well, where you have a chance to place other people's stuff. So I really like that idea of okay, you get what you get, and now you're making decisions based upon your hand. I find that keeps like the game really dynamic.
Yeah.
And I really like being able to put a tile down and go like, oh yeah, no, that's not the winter rabbit. That's not the winter rabbit at all. Don't worry. You're going to get the resources. It's okay.
And every once in a while I will play a game and I will see a mechanism that I'm just filled with jealousy about, because it is so brilliantly conceived. And one of my favorite things about this design is you place your workers in these kind of like forest plots. And when the forest plot is filled, then that spot cashes out. So it's not like you don't place all the workers, then everything cashes out. Only the plots, if you have a field with 3 slots, when it gets to 3 workers, it cashes out. You can make the decision to build the plot larger so that it will be more productive. But when you do that work, it also makes it a little bit more unstable, because now it's going to be cashing out larger, but you're not quite sure when it is going to cash out. And if players don't properly keep that field in circulation, then it might be cashing out less. And it's just engaging with questions of like ecology and communal like resource management in a way that I don't normally see other games sort of touch on. So I think it's just filled with lots of really good ideas.
I'd never heard of this, so I missed it on Kickstarter.
Thank you for
this looks great. I love the fact that it has Cherokee in it. That, again, something you don't see in board games. Cool. And I'm a worker placement fan, so of course I want to check out how they do the workers in this. It's great.
But that quick turnaround time is also bananas. People in the comments are like, the turnaround's bonkers. People are saying, just being on time seems to be a novelty. Shouting out Ludo's Africa being way ahead of schedule as well.
Right.
I mean, as someone who works on Kickstarters, I usually, if something's going to be like 2 or 3 months late, that to me is on time. That's like,
totally.
You like absolutely hit the target.
Currently, like,
the
shipping issues we've had over the last 4 years.
So it's a real testament to the team. And then also I'll shout out all of the art of the game. I believe it's designed by a Cherokee artist, and it is unbelievable. It is such a striking, I think their name is Kendra Swafford. Just wonderful, striking art. It looks it looks and plays like no other worker placement game.
Oh,
Ooh.
that alone is like enough to get me and Ruel.
Seriously,
excited.
I'm all in
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I'm very interested by this one.
Awesome. Thank you, Cole, for that. Let's move on back to Richard for number 1. We can wrap things up. All right, Richard, take it away.
Okay, wow. What an interesting and eclectic list. I gotta say, this has got to be one, in my opinion, one of the coolest anticipatory list shows in all of board game media, and it's because of you three, and also because of Cole. You did not disappoint. What did you guys just talk about? Right. Nemesis Retaliation. Probably not my bag, but I was certainly impressed when Shay did a great run through for it on the channel, and so Chris, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Ruel, Unstoppable. Can I just say you did a phenomenal job running through that on your channel and put it on my radar last year. Of course, John D. Clare crafting, but yeah, the game looks really sharp and it seems like it's blowing up. I mean, every day when I check my subscription feed on Board Game Geek, there's another dozen threads that have popped up about it. So many people are so excited and playing, and I am asking lots of questions and all of that. So I'm definitely keen on that one. Ray, honestly, 23 Knives, I would have expected this to be one that Chris would have put on. It seems kind of more his bag, but unfortunately, a 3-player minimum means it's probably a game I'll never play because I don't think, deduction and betrayal and all of that works particularly well at 2, unfortunately. But Cole, I am so happy you put Winter Rabbit on this list. I actually talked about it a bit in my extended version of the list, which I mentioned earlier is available for backers of the show on Patreon or here on YouTube as members. But gosh darn it, I love, again, this is another example of how board games can be used as a vehicle to open our eyes to the stories that we do not hear, but that are deep and meaningful, and we become more culturally enriched as we get to experience these things through play. And this game looks gorgeous. I remember years ago, it seems like, I'm pretty sure Joel Eddy of Drive Through Review was talking about it when it was up for, I think, winning an Edison Award or something like that. I don't remember the specific example, but ever since then I've been really interested in it, and so I'm glad it's finally coming out, and I'm glad once again, Cole, to have you here to be talking about games that aren't really talked about widely in the board game media sphere. But folks, we have one more to talk about, and it's one I did not talk about when I did my list earlier this month because it hadn't been announced yet, but it is announced now, and I'm sure I am not alone in being very, very excited for Lord of the Rings, Fate of the Fellowship. Why am I excited? Well, Pandemic is my number 1 game of all time, and this is Pandemic fused with the works of Tolkien. That in and of itself, you've got me. As an elevator pitch, does it get much better than that? I don't know. But I'm really intrigued by this for a lot of reasons. One, it's Matt Leacock going back to Pandemic by himself. It feels like it's been years since Matt has not been teaming up with various designers for all the spin-offs, or Rob Davio for the Legacy games, or, Tom Lehman for the Hot Zone games. And, there have been so many. I'm really excited to see pure, raw, unfiltered Leacock back at it, and touching on my wife's favorite property in all of media. She loves. Doesn't everybody love Tolkien? Really? And and Pandemic is such a great fit for it. But then on top of that, it looks really, really cool. Nobody knows yet what the big dice tower is, how it works, but I love dice towers, as does Jen. And, there's some really interesting ideas here. One of the most biggest ones is we no longer control just one character. I think the game comes with like 13 or 14 unique characters, and whenever you play, you control 2 characters, which I have to admit is not something that I would normally be that excited about. But if anybody has ever played the Hemispheres variant, where you can combine Pandemic Hot Zone Europe and Pandemic Hot Zone America, and the way it works is it's a 2-player only version of Pandemic, where each player is kind of like a general controlling 3 different characters running around on 2 different maps at the same time. I don't know if Matt took ideas from that and have brought it over here. I gotta assume so, because where else do we have cooperative games where you're controlling multiple characters? It worked so well. In fact, Pandemic Hemispheres is my wife's favorite way to play Pandemic. And so that's really saying something. So bringing those ideas into her favorite, story universe of all, one Pandemic to rule them all, I've got to say, makes me very, very excited for this. Never mind the fact the presentation looks great. Apparently, it's borrowing ideas from some of the other offshoots. I think there's like 24 different objective cards. So every time you play, you're going to get different. I mean, whether you're trying to attain the blessings of the elves or destroying the One Ring or, all that. And then again, dice towers. Oh, I hope something cool is done with this. Apparently, the game is going to be rolled out at the UK Games Expo this year, which is in June, right? I think it's in June. That's particularly interesting. By June, Jen and I should be living in Ireland. We will have moved over there by then, and I'll just be a hop, skip, and a jump away. Maybe I'll try and make it to the UK Games Expo so I can get my hands on it, because I am super stoked for this. This just ticks every single box. It's like it was made for me and Jen, so it has to be my number one most anticipated game for 2025, Lord of the Rings, Fate of the Fellowship. Oh, good stuff. And now, back to y'all. Alrighty.
Okay, Richard, yeah. Lord of the Rings, in using the pandemic system, I'm definitely interested in this one. I remember hearing about this, but I just sort of, I don't know if I just put it out of my mind or whatever, because I was more excited about the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game. I got really into that. That was really cool. But this one, I'm excited to see it. I mean, Pandemic was the game that got me into modern board games, so I want to see what Matt Leacock does in this version. And I like the idea of controlling multiple characters, like in the Hot Zone Hemispheres variant. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also... did everyone else know that Richard was moving to Ireland?
No, what?
Surprise!
This man, he can't be stopped.
World traveler.
You can't tie him down. What is happening?
Yeah.
I give it a year, then I'll be in Asia somewhere.
Yeah.
He'll be at the top of a mountain sending his videos.
Far in Ireland. Like, where is he gonna take his year-long road trips to in Ireland? Like,
that's true. The RV will tip off any one of the highways as it goes around the narrow.
That's wild.
Oh my goodness, yeah. But anyways, Lord of the Rings, that's our number one, folks. Thanks again. That's our top 10 most anticipated games. But we do have some honorable mentions we'd like to talk about. If you're watching live on Twitch, please share yours in chat. We'll talk about those as well. We're going to let Cole give us an honorable mention, because we know he needs a take off real soon. So, Cole, game you'd like to talk about?
I'm so sad to be leaving soon, so I'm going to do two extremely fast ones.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do 17
so
if you want.
The first is Amabel Holland's Oblique, which is out now. You can you can just buy it now. And it is a wonderful look. I'll have a link. I'll put it in the chat. Amabel is one of my favorite designers, and this is her return to like a traditional war game, and it looks spectacular. And I'm sure it's gonna have a wonderful, very funny, very just interesting take on its subject, and wonderful rule books to read. But I'm delighted that she's covering Frederick the Great. And then on the other side, a title you cannot buy right now that will have its Kickstarter this year, but I'm immensely excited for. This is Hubworld Eidolon, which is the next game coming from Earthborn Games. So a lot of people were late. They slept on Earthborn originally, and Earthborn was flipping great, and it's an amazing studio of people. Michael Boggs and Corey DeVore have developed sort of a like ode to Netrunner that does not feel burdened by all the Netrunnery stuff. And it also has amazing like sort of pseudo watercolor art. In a kind of like a Fifth Element style world. Yeah. If you like sort of head-to-head card games, it looks unbelievable, and it will go on crowdfunding later this year, and they have a really interesting release strategy, which I won't spoil.
Nice.
But keep your eye on Hubworld. It's going to be spectacular.
Awesome.
They're going to be dropping hub worlds into every sky, every major city sky. It's going to be a floating world where you can climb up and demo the game. That's my bet.
Okay.
You heard it here first. I'm locking it in.
Awesome.
Thank you again for having me, everyone.
Yes.
I just want to say that this
Cole,
stream
thank you for
was a
joining us.
real pleasure. And I'll just mention, folk, I will be at UKGE, so I might see Richard and anyone else who's going to make it out there. And then
Yeah,
I will
make sure he's
also,
okay.
for folks who might be in the video game space here, I will be giving a talk at GD. I will also be in San Francisco
sick.
in March.
Cool.
So
Nice.
those are the things on my agenda, and I hope to see you all in the coming very busy con year that is getting ready to warm up.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Again,
for sure.
thank you so much, Cole, for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and
it's great
thanks for
hanging
all
out.
of your great insight. And hopefully do it again sometime soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right, see you later, Cole.
Okay.
You know, I got one thing to say about Cole. It's pretty cool.
Pretty
Cool.
cool. Pretty cool guy.
Pretty cool.
Cool.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, what a treat. And folks
Oh my
watching live, thank you for sticking through the tech issues. And folks watching this later on YouTube, hopefully I've edited all of those snafus out.
Yeah, you didn't
but-
see a thing.
Yeah.
You didn't know
We don't
all
even
the
have to talk about
excitement
it.
that could have happened
Yeah.
had you been here live on Twitch when we were streaming.
Yeah.
But now we're
Changes
going to
into
hang out with
cool
people who are here live on Twitch, and they're
Mhm.
going to drop their honorable mentions, and we're going to drop our honorable mentions of
Yes.
top anticipated.
So let us
So drop
know,
it in the
folks.
chat.
One thing I do want to mention, Cole had brought up Oblique from Hollandspiel Games. I'm also a fan of Hollandspiel, and I believe Cole might have co-designed a game or two with them back in the day. I forgot to ask him while I was here,
Oh, cool.
but we've covered a couple of their games here on Rahdo Runs Through. I've done playthroughs of Heading Forward, which was, I think, one of the greatest solo games ever, done on a really interesting subject where you're trying to recover from a traumatic brain injury, and it's sort of like a hand
what?
management game, which was really interesting. And I also covered the Field of the Cloth of Gold, which was a really interesting take on set collection. It's got a lot of take that. Really, really cool designs out of Hollandspiel. I'm a huge fan, folks. Please check them out if you do. But anyways, let's move on here. Friends in chat, or Ray and Chris, do you have any honorable mentions you'd like to talk about real quick?
I got some honorable mentions.
Okay.
Honorable mention number 1 is John Tripp's joke of changing his name to Cool Whirly. Well done, my friend. Very funny.
Cool.
A couple of my honorable mentions that I didn't talk about. There's a Great Western Trail El Paso that's coming, which apparently is. I was like, Great Western Trail something. I'm interested because I'm obsessed with Great Western Trail in New Zealand. But El Paso is supposed to be a shorter version of Great Western Trail, so it's like an easier version. My first Great Western Trail, if you would. Probably not easy to that extent, but it's sort of being put forward as like I think the tagline on BGG is all the fun of Great Western Trail in like an hour, and so having a shorter version is interesting to me. I love the robust nature of Great Western Trail and New Zealand. I haven't played Argentina, but that obviously sort of stood out to me as well. So that's one that I'm excited about.
I
for
feel
sure.
like is there a trend of publishers doing that with some of their bigger games, like releasing versions that are like, I guess, shorter and or easier? Like I'm thinking, what was that one from? Oh my god, it just totally flew out of my brain right now. Anyways,
that's definitely a thing. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. The one that pops to mind is the Spirit Island.
Yes.
Horizon.
Mhm.
Horizon,
I haven't
yes.
played it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I
I
was
think
thinking-
that's something that publishers have been doing lately.
I mean, I love
And-
that trend. Like, make it more accessible, and so if you like the game enough, I feel like, okay, now I want to try like the heavier, longer version if I'm really into this.
Totally.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
one I was thinking was the Terra Mystica one. Was it Terra Nova?
Oh,
Because
Terra Nova,
Is that
Terra
right?
Nova.
Yes.
yeah,
I think that's it. Because
Okay.
there's also another Terra Nova one that's not Terra Mystica, but there is like a Terra Mystica light one, and I
Okay.
think it was I think Terra Nova is what you're thinking about,
okay.
because I think there's two.
Yep, there it is.
That's the Terra Nova. That is
Yeah.
the Terra Mystica one.
Yeah, and see,
Um,
I think that's great because I love Terra Mystica, but I don't always love sitting for 3 hours. You know, give me
Totally.
something that I can do like an hour or so. Like I'd be all
Mhm.
into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, I always kind of go back and forth about dual games, right? There's always now a dual version of a lot of things. I feel like
Yeah.
that has been a real trend,
Mhm.
which I think falls into that same category. But I that's more specific to two players, right? So
Yeah.
I think they're kind of niching down in that two player. I feel like the incentive there is let's give a two-player version of this game rather than just like a smaller version,
Right. Yeah.
as well. I want to try Everdell Duo because of that,
Yep.
because I love Everdell, and my buddy Zach was playing Everdell a bunch, and he's like, I should get my own copy of Everdell. And he went to the store and he saw there were a bunch of copies of Everdell, and then there was only one copy of certain expansions, and he went, oh, I better buy the expansions instead. And so he bought the expansions for Everdell and didn't buy Everdell.
Oh, no.
And he's like, I'll get it eventually. I was like, honestly,
Classic mistake.
great strategy, because
Yeah.
because you can pick it up probably on the secondary market, and then he's
Yeah.
got these expansions, and then he
Yeah.
brought the expansions over, and I have Everdell, so we played through
Cute.
like New Leaf and Spirecrest just recently.
Nice.
But so I was thinking about like how I'm always sort of put off somewhat about a game that I really really love because of its like robust nature, and then it shrinking down, and I don't know how much I will love it compared to the original, right?
Yeah.
If it's just in terms of how many decision making processes are left out,
Right. Yeah.
So I think I don't know, I'm interested to see Great Western Trail El Paso because of this.
Mhm.
And I think like what drew me in was the Great Western Trail something. And I was like, maybe this is a new big one, and then it's a smaller one, but I'm still interested because of how much like I've been really enjoying New Zealand recently.
Right.
So that was one of my honorable mentions.
Cool.
For
Thank
sure
you.
to shout
And
out.
and Edward Heavy Cardboard says, gasps, not sitting for 3 hours. Edward,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us
Yeah.
today. What about you, Ray? Got an honorable mention you'd like to shout out?
I got a couple. I have a couple Kickstarters that are fulfilling this year, so I think they count as this year releases that are on their way, hopefully as we speak. One is Old King's Crown, which this is one I'm so hopeful, but I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I don't know. I really, really, really want to like this game. The art is some of the most breathtaking and unique art that I have seen in a board game in a really long time. It's been a minute since I
wow.
don't really exist on Kickstarter very much anymore. And I try my best to tune out hype and impulse buys.
Yep.
This was my one impulse back of, I guess, last year or the year before. I think maybe I backed it 2 years ago. It's been a minute. It's so gorgeous. I'm a little worried, having listened to the How to Play and having read the rulebook, I'm a little worried that it's going to be a little bit maybe bloated. I don't know that that's the right word, but like kind of fiddly. I'm worried about being a little fiddly for what it is. But I am very excited to give it a shot. It's a new designer, at least a new publisher. So I'm willing to like go in with a open mind because it's so gorgeous and I want it to be good so badly.
Yeah.
But that's Old King's Crown. I also have Tabriz, which I believe is also actively on its way to my house. Tabriz is just Eurogame chicken noodle soup. I am so excited. I got to play test this at the last in-person Shucks that ever happened. And it just, I don't feel like it did anything wildly crazy new, but it felt like going back to the games that got me into board games. It just felt like beige, Euro-y, goodness, clean, elegant. The thing is, as opposed to the Old King's Crown, where I'm a little bit hesitant about some of the design choices in Old King's Crown, Tabriz, I know I'm going to like it. So this was on my list because I'm just like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to love it. It's going to feel like a nice warm cup of tea. I played it at Shucks and I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm excited for this one. Yeah, Tabriz is solid, Jay. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one too.
And then I also had... Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Randy Flynn. You can't go wrong with a Randy Flynn game. Yeah. Cascadia.
It's going to be so solid. It's going to be so good.
Yeah.
I also had Builders of Baldur's Gate on my list just because I love that IP. Baldur's Gate consumed so much of my time. The new Baldur's Gate 3 consumed so much of my time last year. So I'm hopeful that theme feels really present because that would be really fun to get to a tabletop space in a non-TTRPG context, obviously. I'm a big D&D person as well, so excited for that IP. And then I also have, obviously, T-Witches, which is our big hobby release from the OP, and I felt justified in putting it on this list because I have played one single round of T-Witches. I have not played a full game at all. Kind of the way the op is structured with me being remote, I'm not going to get a full game of this in until probably like right before Gen Con.
Right.
So I am kind of in the same, even though I work for the publisher, I'm kind of in the same boat as everyone else where it's like, I know what this game is. I've played around, really, really loved it, but I am highly anticipating when I can get my pre-production copy and actually try it out. It's basically, it's from the same designer who made Flamecraft, and it's with the same artist. So it's got all of the punny, cozy, cutesy, everything you love about Flamecraft, but put a witch hat on it and make it a lot chunkier, like a lot heavier. From the 1 or 2 rounds that I played, it's, I think, significantly heavier than Flamecraft, which is an interesting direction for Manny Vega, and I'm really, really honored that we're getting to publish this. It's got tile placement, worker placement, a little bit of sort of, don't know how to describe it, but you're putting down tiles into your little cabinet and they can connect to each other and kind of interact with each other, and a little bit of push your luck. It's great. I'm so excited to be able to talk about it in more detail.
Everything you're saying sounds enormously exciting to me about
Twitch.
It's
good. It's good.
I like don't know too much about it because like until if it's not on the Kickstarter side and when it hits retail, then that's when I find out about it, right? But that sounds really cool.
I mean, just the whole cozy thing has got me. I feel like there's a cozy trend these days, and I'm all for it. I love games like this. By the way, here on Twitch, I want to thank Penelope Gaming for raiding. Welcome on, Raiders. We are the R&R show here on Rahdo Runs Through. I'm Ruel. This is Chris. This is Ray. And we're talking about our top 10 most anticipated board games of 2025. We just did our top 10 with special guest Cole Wehrle. And now we're talking about honorable mentions and also viewers' choices for the anticipated games. So let us know in chat what you're into. Thanks for joining us, Heavy Cardboard. Have a wonderful day. Ray T, which is Flamecraft. I mean, you had me right there. I love Flamecraft. I actually have the little plushie dragons as well. Cute. And T-Witch is just, especially after Gnome Hollow came out, like the Op is putting out some bangers, folks. So
Op's one to watch.
Spot.
They really are. You know what? Sorry, real quick. My most played game, seriously, during the holiday season, Flip 7. Like nothing even came close. We love Flip 7 here in the house.
Flip 7's been such a fun. I'm so happy to see the industry take so kindly to it, and to run with it in the way that we hoped people would. It's been really fun. We're up for a Toy of the Year award later this month. I'm going to the Toady Awards, so fingers crossed for us there. It's been that's been such a fun release. So I love it. I've heard that from so many people, like real heavy gamers who are like, I went home for the holidays. Boy, did I play a lot of Flip 7. At the end of the day, if we're making a game that gets to the table a lot, it's a win. It's a win in my book, regardless. If people are playing it, that's a win. So love hearing that.
Chris,
I have a couple more. I have a couple more honorable mentions to shout out too. But I do have a question in terms of Tabriz. My memory remembers that Tabriz lowered their costs throughout. They were like, is that a thing? Do you remember that or not?
I don't remember that.
I remember seeing like Tabriz stands out to me because they were like, oh, we overestimated. We're going to charge everybody less on like the shipping.
Remember that.
To like count to give you money back. And I think that's one of the only crowdfunding games out of at least over 2,500 rule books that I've read through that I can recall that like ever popping up. And so that makes me just be like, Tabriz, you love your you love your players. And I saw it being played at Level Up, the Level Up Gaming Retreat that I was just at recently. I didn't play it, but people looked like they were having fun. For my other honorable mentions, I didn't mention Iridia because it's delivering now. It's at my neighbor's house who picked it up for me when I was away, and so I'm so excited. But I've talked about it so many times, so that's why I didn't put it on my list because I'm just like still super stoked to try it out. Layers from KDBG is a great game, and I'm thrilled for that one to hit people's shelves. Layers is awesome. It's like competitive psychic pizza deliverers go to a ghost town. You're building your own little dungeon.
Whoa.
I did a playthrough, a paid playthrough with my buddy Zach, and whenever there are traps that you can fall into, and so we made each other mystery shots from liquids in my fridge of like hot sauce and like feta cheese brine, and anytime you went into a trap, you had to like take the shot. And so it really upped the stakes. It was horrible, but it was very fun.
What was the worst shot you had to do, Chris?
Well, you know what? I avoided one of the traps, and it felt so good because I didn't have to drink this thing. But then I drank it at the end, and I regret it until now. But it was like feta cheese brine, soy sauce. It It was horrible, and I'm glad I did it at the end because I was like, "Ugh." Yeah, it was really bad. But anyway, but the game itself without that is very fun as well. And
I know we're all
also
fans of
yeah.
KTBG here. Like I really like
Yeah,
their
for sure.
games. So this one I'm looking forward to as well.
Yeah. Also, Burnt Island, the neighbor who has my copy of Iridia hostage, is making me say this. It's his first design game. It's called How to Save a World. I've been a huge sort of champion of that game, and he was on the show. Yuval was on the show, much to my chagrin, trying to tell everybody that we're friends when he is simply my neighbor, and that's it. Yeah, I really, really like his game. I think it's awesome, and so I'm excited for that to arrive for people to enjoy it. And then the other one that I late pledged on a whim because I was mad. And that's Meeple Inc. or whatever it's called now because of the stupid Hans im Gluck. I mean, I don't know if anyone Hans im Gluck is watching, but if you are, you're stupid and I hate you.
I agree.
Because I like calling this Meeple Inc. and whatever it's called.
It doesn't even show up in BGG.
It's Tabletop. It's called Tabletop Inc., which is also still a great game.
Okay,
great name for a game. Anyway, I
Maybe
remember
there's a copyright issue. Do you know?
It's Meeple. Meeple has been copyrighted by Hans im Gluck. Yeah. In Europe.
I got you now.
Even though they didn't come up with the term, somebody else did for their pieces, and they're like, no, ours now. And I think that's stupid.
That's obnoxious.
Yeah, and you should go into a hole and just never emerge again.
Whoa.
Like a cave. Like a cave. I'm not saying I'm burying them alive, Ray. Jeez. Anyway, I was reviewing that game and I was like, this is a cool game, and then I backed it to support them because I thought that their issues were stupid. And so I am stoked. I'm actually like legitimately stoked to get this game because it's all about designing a tabletop game, which I think is really cool. So I think those are my honorable mentions. Ruel, what about you? And then we'll talk about some stuff in the chat.
I wanted to show off this video we did for when it was called Meeple Inc. Becca and I at Good Times Society did a video. It was a really fun video. And just seeing there's actual like little board game pieces that are board games. The little cover, it's like some of the coolest components ever, folks. And yeah, we did this whole, check this video out, folks. It's Meeple Inc. and Good Times Society. We did this whole Inception thing, Chris, with, and Ray, that I think you all would appreciate, like this Inception style thing. It's really silly and wacky. But anyways, the pieces and components for the game are fantastic. And Tabletop
really
Inc.
cool.
I guess is okay, but I prefer Meeple Inc. as well.
Yeah.
Couple of the ones that I was into, let me see. Misfit Heroes from AEG. That's coming out, I think, real soon now. It is, well, let's put it on the screen here. This is from Phil Walker Harding. Praise be. This is his take on card crafting. So knowing Phil Walker Harding and his the way he designs games, I'm assuming this card crafting is going to be very accessible, family friendly, and Phil Walker Harding, card crafting, I'm all in. Yeah, this is 30 to 45 minutes, so it's going to be a lighter game. I'm always into those. Other games that were on my list that didn't make it, of course, Molly House we talked about. Rebuilding Chicago. I was really into Rebuilding Seattle because of Richard's recommendation. Michelle and I love this one. It's a fantastic tile laying game. And Rebuilding Chicago. Yeah, it's y'all would really enjoy this one. Rebuilding Chicago's the re-implementation, obviously in Chicago instead of Seattle, and I love Chicago. And I don't know, I recently about 2 years ago went for the first time and totally got obsessed with the city. And this is a little historical lesson on how Chicago was rebuilt after the Great Fire of like 1914 or whatever year it was. So looking forward to that one. Other ones on my list.
Famously love the baseball team, the Chicago Dodgers, right?
The Chicago Dodgers are great, yeah. Speaking of the Dodgers, did y'all know that the LA Dodgers won the World Series last year?
I didn't. I didn't.
Oh, I might have gotten a championship hat. Yeah, there's my Dodgers.
There you
look
go.
at that.
Yeah. Other games, we talked about already. Molly House was on there. Furnace Duel. We were talking about duel games. Furnace Duel. I really love Furnace, so I want to see what they do with a 2-player game. Likewise, Point Galaxy is another one. Point Salad. Point City. This is the next one in space, so it's in space. It's got to be better. And let's see, Critter Kitchen along the same lines of Flamecraft, I believe. Critter Kitchen. Let me bring that up on screen.
Critter Kitchen. I really like the 3 different workers that you have. You have a big slow worker who can take like a lot of resources, but they go last in turn order, and so like if the resources aren't there,
neat.
then they don't get to take them. And so that's what I really like about that mechanism.
And I know it's Peter C. Hayward, designer of Flamecraft, and I believe the same artist too. Just again, got cute, cozy vibes to it, and I'm all about it. Other games that didn't, that's pretty much the ones I want to talk about. Let's go to viewers' choices. Anything? Let me see.
I'm scrolling up. People are talking about Galactic Cruise.
Oh yeah.
By Kinson Key Games, their sort of inaugural one.
Am I insane? I feel like Galactic Cruise has been coming out this year for several years. Am I like...
I agree.
I swear to God. I went on BGG and saw that. And I was like, that game's been out. That game has to be out.
Yeah.
I swear. I've been seeing that game everywhere all the time for years.
Well, was it released
I'm just
elsewhere?
fact-checking myself.
Yeah.
Am I not? No, you're right. I remember seeing it when I was scrolling through BGG of games that released this year, and I was like, "That's got to be wrong."
No, it finished its funding April 3rd, 2024. So even in the quickest of turnarounds, I don't see that ever coming out. But they may have had it listed as 2024 when the Kickstarter was happening, and then they might have changed the release date on BGG. I've seen that happen
weird
frequently.
Time pocket.
Yeah,
I swear to God.
Nice. Other folks we're talking about.
Other ones. Bonzinator was saying Mad Kala, Apostocracy, and Wine Cellar. Mad Kala being the Wonderlands War sort of Mancala game.
Yeah.
Which I love the art from Wonderlands War.
Agreed. This one, Mancala is fantastic. It is outstanding. Hey, I actually played this one with Bonzinator on Good Time Society.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was
nice.
It's a 2-player game. There's 4 of us playing, so we did like a little tournament style. It was me versus Bonds, and then Becca versus designer or publisher James Hudson, Drew City Games. The Mancala mechanism is so cool to do a battling game with Mancala. Like it was like so unique, and I actually did another run through this on my channel. Absolutely loved it. People are gonna really enjoy this one, and especially if you love the Wonderlands War world. Which I think, did we talk about this, Chris? Like I recently played Wonderlands War for the first time and was totally blown away. I love that game.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's fantastic.
And then Apostocracy is like an obsession themed style. I say obsession themed, so like the Regency, I guess. You get your queens and whatever. You're going up this the board is kind of tiered, and the further you go up, the more points you're going to get. You're going to be taking cards again to sort of play your actions, and there's always a whist. A game of whist that you're going to play at the end of each round. So you're holding up cards to do that, but you're playing cards to do other actions of like ascending this ladder where you want to like be ascending the queen's favor.
I love anything where it's like you're playing cards, but you also have to be mindful of like what you're keeping in your hand, kind of like Arboretum, which I know you hate, but bad example. But I like that mechanism.
Wait, Chris, you hate Arboretum?
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah,
Can we talk about this?
Famously hates Arboretum. We've had this conversation.
So
you and I like it, Ruel, and Chris just
murder trees.
I want it to never
Chris's
exist.
respect for me drop when I was like, "This is my favorite nature game." I felt the shift, the paradigm shift in our relationship.
I think I might like it better at 2. I think I only played one game. I played it at 4, and I was just like, "Oh, this is king making the board game. Cool."
Yeah.
Is what it felt like to me. So I think at 2, it might be. I would be willing to give it a try, but I would be willing to give any other game a try before that.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, try
that
it with
example,
2.
but I do
try
like
it with
that.
2. Yeah.
And Wine Cellar, you got very excited about, Ray. Do you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, I love this one.
Sorry,
go ahead,
know
Ray.
much about it other than I've heard people talk about it. I've seen it make the rounds on like review channels and stuff, and I love the art, love the theme. Looks gorgeous. I don't know much about it. I haven't dug into it because I didn't put it on my list because I hadn't actually really researched it. But I've heard of this.
I actually
think it was fun.
Yeah,
I'm looking for another wine night game that isn't just viticulture, because I believe my group is getting sick of it. I love it very much. It's a nice excuse to have everyone like bring a bottle, do like a cute little tasting. It would be nice to have another game thematically where I can do that maybe they might be less sick of.
Yeah, you know what, Ray? This will be perfect for that. Wine Cellar. I actually played it with Bonzaner, and I did a sponsored
nice.
playthrough on my
You talk
channel.
about
Yeah, it's similar
Yeah.
to For Sale, the classic auction bidding game For Sale, but with wine and a little bit more set collection built into it, which I really enjoyed.
Cool.
But yeah, it's terrific. The cards are almost like bookmark size. They're like little bookmarks, but it's
that.
gorgeous. Yeah, Vincent Dutray art. And designer.
Icon. What a king! That man never sleeps. I swear.
Seriously,
to God. Like,
yeah.
He just does everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, Andrew Styles, designer, good, great, terrific game. And Andrew, I know him personally. He is actually a wine connoisseur, so this was like his first game design, which is his passion as well. So really neat to see.
That.
Yeah.
Now I think I'm just scrolling through the chat. I'm just going to keep on shouting out stuff as I scroll from back up top. I'm fairly certain this is a joke, but Bing said Lost Cities Duel. So I think that's a joke, considering Lost Cities is already a duel type game. But I just thought
I think
it was
funny.
back
when we were talking about how there's a duel for everything. I think it was
That's
a joke.
right. Yeah.
It was a joke for Lost Cities Duel.
Okay.
But Corthane says Azul Duel. Which I don't think is a joke because it's included with other things. And House of Fado and Point Galaxy. So I think did we talk about Point Galaxy?
I just mentioned it quickly.
You just mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the next...
Azul Duel and then House of Fado as well.
Oh, House of Fado. Who talked about
that?
that?
Familiar with that?
House of Fado's Lacerda, and people have been sort of attributing it as like, you know how Bot Factory is Simple Kanban?
Yes.
I've heard that House of Fado is Simple the Gallerist.
Right.
Although I have played the Gallerist. That's the only Lacerda that I have played. And I read through the rulebook of House of Fado because it was on Kickstarter. And I didn't get that vibe, like specifically, because I find for me, the Gallerist is all about kind of pushing people out of their spots. And I don't remember that being in this, but somebody can fact check me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I heard, that sort of like relationship to. In that sort of lighter weight category, though, like a lighter Lacerda, not taking like 3 hours, but might play in an hour or so,
right?
Which I think is cool.
Yeah, I'd seen this just recently, and I was excited because it is a more accessible Lacerda, right? Again, if you don't want to, if you don't have the time to sit for an hour teach and then a 3-hour game, this might be the way to go to get your Lacerda fixed. So, we were just talking about viticulture and wine cellar. Ray, have you ever played Vinos from Lacerda?
No, I have not.
I played it last year, actually at the World Series of Board Game, and it was
WSBG,
fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Vinhos, so Vinhos. It is brilliant, but it's...
I recognize this cover. I've never played it.
Yeah, it's a beast, though. We sat, Casey, a.k.a. Brain in a Jar, she taught it. She's a big Lacerda fan. The teach was a good, solid hour.
That's
and
iconic.
then
I love...
The game was 3 hours.
I love whenever you play like a really heavy game, you always end up being like, and Casey taught it to me. I feel like this is like the second or third one.
She's
like
so
super
good.
heavy when you're like, Casey taught it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so iconic of her that she is
totally
like honing that skill of teaching a complex game well and enjoying that is something that I am forever be in awe of people who have mastered that.
Same.
It's such a valuable person to have in your gaming group or your friends.
It really is.
So I'm jealous that you got to play it with her.
Like that game, I could have easily seen it going. If we didn't have Casey teaching, it could have taken like 8 hours. Honestly, it was because it's really rich and complex. But the thing is, like, she knew the game. She taught it well, and then whenever we had questions, she knew exactly where to go to the rule book. In the rule book. So it was like, it's just
what a
perfect.
Queen.
Yeah,
that's
So
awesome.
my running joke is I'll never play another Lacerda unless Casey's around. So shout out to you, Casey.
Shout out to Casey. There's only a couple more that were mentioned in the chat. Bear Gorilla says excited for Leviathan Wilds pledge to fulfill, hopefully in the summer. I think that was maybe a reprint though. So I think Leviathan Wilds might have been fulfilled the first time in 2024. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But still, I'm excited that you're excited. So obviously we're going to shout out. And there was one other thing that somebody mentioned of something arriving. The Critic Kitchen is arriving. Oh, Scara Bray shipping in March as well.
I don't think
that
I've
was
heard
the other one that was sort of shouted out. Yeah, Skara and then Brae. I remember looking at this
Oh,
because
Shem
it's,
Phillips. Okay.
yeah, it's Garphill.
Mm.
Like all Garphill games, I remember thinking, great, you do combo, combo, combo. It's gonna be good. Art's fun, probably great.
Yeah.
That's what I took away from Scarabray. Although I think there is like a shared resource
Okay.
track, like collective resources and a limited resource market. Not market. You can only hold a certain amount of resources, and then there might be some interaction with that mechanism as well, because you're getting too many. You can see it being filled up on that picture up there. But yeah, those are the other ones in the chat that people are shouting about. So thanks, chat.
Yeah, nice list.
Yeah,
I
great.
hope it's
Great
gonna be a
calls.
good year. Like, it seems like we've got a lot of fun stuff on
Yeah.
the horizon.
So many good games. I think that's gonna do it. Unless Chris, Ray, any final comments before we get out of here?
I miss you
No,
guys.
not for me.
That's my only comment.
I just came back from the Level Up Gaming Retreat, and it was awesome, and I got to see so many people, and I want to say, hey, John Tripp, sorry we didn't get to play a game, because John was like, hey, it's me. I'm like, oh, hey. So I just see John in the comments, and so I was like, dang, we didn't get to play a game, but I did get to play a game with a lot of people, like Sean in the comments, too.
Nice.
It was just like, it was a friggin' lovely, lovely blast, and I love everybody who I saw and talked to and look forward to at more conventions. Seeing more of this wonderful, wonderful board gaming community that we have, just interacting. It's great. You're all wonderful. And I just want to say that to finish us off.
Well said. Well said. That's
Well
great. I
said.
think that's a good note to leave on. Folks, this has been the R&R Show, episode 102. Thanks again for hanging out with us. Want to give another shout out to Foros, who sponsored this episode. Be sure to check out the links in the show notes for more info on the game. This is a get 4 in a row type game with best chunky components ever, and it's 3D and whatnot, and it's really great. So be sure to check that out. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And I hit the wrong button. Okay. Yay.
Whoop.
There wouldn't be an R&R show without it. We'll see
I'm
you
cutting all this stuff out.
later.
I'm
Yeah.
cutting all this stuff out. Okay, we're gonna go raid now.
Let's go
Bye.
raid somebody.
Oh man.
I will say, while you're setting up the raid, my strategy in Foros would be to just stack it as close to the edge as possible. Now that I know it's a dexterity game,
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to put it so that
Sabotage?
if anybody puts it on that spot, they
Yeah.
fall, right? And so
Yeah.
then that's my.
That's,
But if you
yeah,
can get
the
it, then you get the
dexterity.
piece, and then there's no chance. Yeah, oh,
That's
100% go all in on that. Like,
Completely agree.
yeah, that strategy.
I love
That's
it.
the way to play.
That is. Thank you, Chris. Folks, you just got your gaming strategy for Foros. We get it. All right.
I work for the World Series of Board Gaming, so you know it's a good strategy.
You know he knows what he's
Yeah.
talking about. Chris, Ray, thank you again. And folks who are watching, thank you. We're going to go raid Paula Deming, our friend Paula. She is playing The Killer from Tomorrow, Final Girl Season 3. So let's go on over there. We're raiding right now. Bye, everybody.
Let's do it. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, 10 seconds. Keep saying bye
Oops.
for 10 seconds.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Goodbye. I
Bye.
love you.
Hola.
Kiss, kiss.
Kiss, kiss. Bye-bye.
Bye.